I've been in the cattle business all my life. And you know, if there's one drawback about the cattle business, we do things the same old way year after year after year, because that's how Grandpa did it. That's how Daddy did it. And, but when we started investigating this and talking to people and watching some of these videos, and I got to realize about how so much of this made sense. And if you would watch how you would handle your cattle, and if you were calm, and if you had some idea of what you wanted the cattle to do before you got started, you know, you could handle cattle in a low-stress handling procedure. And through this time, we got to visiting with Mr. Detering, and we had him on a program or two, and I had seen him speak at the Texas A&M Beef Cattle Short Course, and he does a tremendous job, and he's very knowledgeable about behavior of cattle and how to handle cattle in a low-stress environment, which is very important. And as Mr. Detering got to working more and more with this, and it turned into a passion with him because he enjoyed it so much and he thought it was so important. And he worked with it, and he put together a really nice video, and he visited with some of the leading experts in the entire world on cattle handling. One of them being Dr. Temple Grandin, and who most of you know her, and she's endorsed this program. And especially, she says, handling Bos Indicus type cattle, because Mr. Detering does have a little bit more expertise in that than most of the people would have. And he studied with Bud Williams, who a lot of you probably heard about the Bud box and those type of things, about how your facilities are important in handling cattle, so they want to go, and you don't have to force them to go. And so another great, there's so much written about by Dr. Grandin and also Bud Williams. A great friend, this is kind of literally and figuratively, a great friend of Mr. Detering's is Dr. Ted Friend from Texas A&M University, who's really shown some interest in this program and they've worked together with the programs that Mr. Herman Detering has put on, and some of the research work being done at Texas A&M University. And I think if any of you have been anywhere, you've heard Joe Pascal and Dr. Ron Gill and some of them talk extensively about cattle handling and procedures and things like that. Mr. Detering has written numerous articles, both in the Cattleman and the Brahman Journal, and this April he'll add another one to that, because we've already planned to have him write an article for us in the American Brahman Review. So without talking anymore or introducing anymore, I think you're going to really enjoy the presentation that Mr. Detering is going to give to you today. He's from Hempstead, Texas. His ranch is in Hempstead. I think he lives in Houston. They spend a lot of time at the ranch. He'll be here probably the rest of the day. We can visit afterwards or anything, but you're going to really like this presentation. Mr. Herman Detering.
Thank you, Milton, and thank all of you for coming out on this somewhat cool Saturday morning for a demonstration of low-stress handling. My program that I do at my ranch and at other people's ranches, I've designed it to basically work with weanlings after they've settled down, maybe 10 days after they've been weaned. And it extends over a 2-week period. It's a program where I work about an hour a day. Let's just break it down that way. At the end of 2 weeks, or about 20 hours, those animals have changed from wanting to be away from me and run and be evasive to wanting to be with me. I can't show you much of that today. I can maybe make a little progress with these animals, but it takes repetition. It takes giving them time to relax and soak and think about what's happened. But we're here, we're building confidence, because what we're looking at basically is fear on 4 legs. And we're trying to change that. We're trying to get them to do something that's not really natural. We're getting them to want to be with a predator. And that's rather unusual, because in the wild, in the way we've been for thousands of years, the predator hunts the prey, and the prey either gets away or gets caught and killed. And we're asking for a different solution. We're asking for them to live with us. But if we continue those same techniques, we create a lot of stress, which is detrimental to what we want as producers. So that's the impetus behind this low stress approach. It's an educational approach. When I work with animals to start with, I'm not doing anything else but working with them. I'm not trying to get something else done. I'm not trying to give them shots or tag them or anything else. My attention is solely on my relationship to them and the kind of pressure I'm bringing to bear on them to get my goals achieved and do it in a calm way. Today, I'll just be able to introduce you to some of the main concerns and principles and show you a little bit with these animals. I know that people take away very little from a speech or a talk or a demonstration, but there are three things I want you to carry away from this if you don't remember anything else. The first thing is, more important than any technique I show you today, is your attitude. If you come in there with an aggressive attitude, you're going to force to get something done. Or if you come in with a deferential attitude, oh, I'm going to get them to love me and want to be with me. Here's a cookie. You're not going to get low stress handling done. You're going to create, once that animal is no longer afraid of you, you're going to create a monster. So you have to balance the draw and the drive, getting them to move off a cue, because as they become less afraid of you, you're going to have a motivation for them to move. And that is this cue, which you're going to try to bring about through your body language. The second thing besides attitude, which is of fundamental importance, is to keep in mind the idea of a flight zone. Now, this is something that's always there. It's there right now. Why do you think they're on the other side of this pen? That's because we're over here. And for them to come over here would be inside their flight zone. So you're working with that, whether we're standing here, whether we're in a 25-acre pasture, or whether I'm standing there with my hand on their back, rubbing them. Maybe they're just fine, but I go over here, I hit a no-no spot. They're not comfortable. I've got to work there then. The line of the flight zone being that area where they're not comfortable with you being there with them. That is the line where in low stress handling we work. We work back and forth across that line. It's always moving, it's always changing. But as we step across it, we create a little tension. And if they can hold that tension until they choose to do something we want, then we pull back. So it's something it's always operating, whether that animal is at 0 or completely wild. And you need to keep it in mind in any kind of handling training that you do. The final of the three things I want you to take away is an awareness of the kind of pressure and release you put on these animals. I call it prey-like pressure, because what I do in there, my teacher is the animals themselves. And I look to the way they behave in the herd, and I try to mimic to the best that I can the kind of pressure that the lead animal puts on the rest of the herd. And with prey animals, it's a very controlled. It slowly escalates and quickly vanishes as soon as the other animal makes the right choice. And that's what I try to do. I do as little as possible, but as much as necessary. Sometimes that gets pretty high. So this is not just a matter of being real soft and easy with them. It's a matter of being appropriate so you don't frighten them and undermine their confidence with human beings. So what I'll be showing you in here is the application slowly of more and more pressure, which has to do with me sometimes getting closer to them or being in a certain position on their body, whether I'm trying to turn them or send them straight ahead. And then when they do respond, I pull away. I turn away, I leave them alone. That lets them know that they did the right thing, because the few things they want in life, it's very simple. They want to eat, they want to relax, and they want to have their babies. Those are about the three things. And it's real simple, and removing pressure is the thing that allows those to be, to occur for them in a way that makes them content. But they're dealing with pressure all day, from each other, from the weather, from hunger, you name it. But their concern is to resolve that pressure and not have it on them. So that's the negotiation that goes back and forth. I will stop my pressure if you will move in the way I want you to. And so that's what I'll be doing with these. I'll be showing you as best I can in this short period some of the techniques I use, and but more in particular, try and observe my attitude and my energy level, because that's what's got to be calm and non-predatory, non-goal directed, and that's so hard for all of us. If we like to go directly towards a goal. Well, this is not the way with natural horsemanship or natural herdmanship. Sometimes it's been called a Zen type approach, because you're letting things develop. You're setting things up. You don't make things happen. When I go to halter break a calf, I don't put a halter on her. I prepare her to receive the halter. Then it's easy. So I want to get started now with the cattle, and my first consideration is outside the pen. I have, like a good pilot on an airplane, I do a pre-flight check. And my first check is this flight zone. I'm outside the pen, but I want to make sure that I'm not in their flight zone. Are they standing still? Are they relaxed? Well, they appear to be. And so at this distance, I'm not really intruding. Now, they're all going to be a little different. This one may be paying a little more attention, but there's enough latitude in this approach that it's okay to kind of work with the average, because they are herd-oriented and they will stay and move as a herd much more comfortably. You get, all you have to do is think of a cutting contest in the rodeo, and you'll see how much they want to be with their kin. They want to be with the herd.